Sometimes I think about how many secrets people manage to carry for years without letting anything slip. I've seen this happen in real life more times than I'd like to admit. Growing up, I had this neighbor who always acted like everything was perfect, until one day everything fell apart at once. That memory always reminds me that behind every quiet smile, there might be a lifetime of silence. Maybe that's why this story hits me so hard. Because when someone hides something for 18 years, it's not just a secret anymore. It becomes part of who they are, and whether they mean to or not, it becomes part of who you are, too. This is what happened to Ethan. Ethan grew up believing his life was simple. Not perfect, not easy, but predictable in the way childhood often is when you don't know enough to question anything. He lived in a small two-bedroom house with his mother, Sarah, a woman who always seemed tired but never complained. She was strict in her own quiet way, the kind of mother who didn't raise her voice but had those eyes that could pull the truth out of you without a single word. From the outside, their relationship looked normal. Warm, even. She cooked dinner every night. She hugged him before school. She told him she loved him, even if she sometimes seemed distracted when she said it. Ethan never had a reason to think something was wrong. But you know how, when you look back, you realize the tiny things that didn't make sense. The moments you brushed off because you were a kid, or because you trusted the person in front of you. Those moments were everywhere in Ethan's childhood. There was the time he came home from school asking about his father, because one of the boys in his class said every kid had a dad. He remembered the way Sarah froze for half a second, so fast you'd miss it unless you were paying attention. She smiled again right after, but it was too late. That half-second lived in his memory like a crack on glass. She told him his father wasn't someone they needed in their lives, and he accepted it, but something in her voice felt rehearsed. Then there were the boxes in the attic. He wasn't allowed up there, ever. Sarah never forbade anything else with such intensity. There's nothing important there, she'd say, even though she never let him see for himself. Kids don't usually question that. He didn't either. Not then. Yet the biggest sign, although he didn't realize it until much later, was the way she watched him. Every birthday, every time he fell and scraped a knee, every fever, every milestone, she looked at him as if she was afraid that someone might take him away at any moment. It wasn't love in her eyes. It was fear disguised as love. And fear can make people do things they later regret. For 18 years, Ethan lived with that invisible tension, a truth pressed under the floorboards of his home. And the truth stayed buried. Until the day the washing machine broke. I always say this, it's never during big, dramatic moments that secrets unravel. It's always during the most ordinary days. You're washing dishes, or buying groceries, or fixing a leaky pipe, then suddenly the world tilts, and you're holding something you weren't supposed to find. For Ethan, it happened when he was moving the old washing machine to make room for the new one. He crouched down, wiped the dust, and that's when he saw it. A thin, flat wooden box wedged behind the machine, taped to the back panel as if someone wanted to ensure no one would find it unless something in the room broke or needed replacing. He pulled it free, confused. The box was sealed with yellowing tape, the edges worn. It looked like it had been hidden there for years, maybe his whole life. At first, he thought it belonged to the previous owners. But deep down, something cold settled into his chest. He knew. Long before he opened it, he knew this wasn't something left behind by strangers. He peeled the tape off. Inside, there was a single folded letter. Not a stack. Not documents. Just one letter. Addressed to him. His hands began shaking. And he didn't even know why. I think that's the thing about intuition, your mind might be clueless, but your body knows. The envelope had his name on it, written in a handwriting he had never seen before. It wasn't his mother's. He stared at the letters long enough for fear to settle into something heavier. He turned the envelope over. The seal was untouched. And for a long moment, he didn't open it. I can't blame him. Honestly, if I found something like that in my house, I don't know if I'd have the courage to open it either. When a letter stays sealed for 18 years, it's because whatever is inside has the power to change someone's life. But eventually, he took a deep breath and tore it open. The paper was old, maybe not ancient, but definitely not recent. The ink had faded slightly, but the words were legible. He began reading. "My son. If you're reading this, I'm gone." He stopped. His heart slammed into his ribs so hard he thought he might faint. He whispered the words again, "I'm gone." Who? Who was gone? He had never seen this handwriting. Never heard anyone call him, "my son," besides his mother. He forced himself to keep reading. "And the truth your mother tried to protect you from can't stay hidden any longer. Truth. Protect. Hidden." He read those words over and over. The letter continued, but his hands were trembling so violently he had to sit down. "I wish I could have been there to watch you grow. I wish I could have held you at least once. But circumstances didn't allow me to be part of your life." He swallowed, throat burning. He read the next line slowly, terrified of what he'd see. "You deserve to know who I am." His vision blurred. He blinked until he could see again. The next words destroyed the version of himself he had known for 18 years. "I am your father." His breath left his body. It didn't make sense. His mother had always said his father didn't want anything to do with them. That he had abandoned them before he was even born. But this letter didn't sound like a man who abandoned anyone. It sounded like a man who had been kept away. And then the next line hit even harder. "Your mother did what she believed was right, but you deserve the truth. You deserve to know why she hid me from you. Why she hid me. Not why I left. Not why I couldn't be there. Why she hid him." Ethan dropped the letter onto the floor. He leaned back against the wall, eyes wide, chest tight. A cold rush spread across his skin, the kind that comes when something in your life permanently shifts. He picked up the letter again. There was more. "I was not the man she wanted me to be. I wasn't the man she expected. And the day she found out the truth about my past, she made a choice. One she believed would keep you safe." Safe from what? Ethan kept reading, desperate, heart pounding. But the next lines were smudged, impossible to read. Water damage, maybe. Or tears, someone's tears, long ago. He tried to decipher them, but the ink had bled too much. The bottom of the letter, however, was clear. "If someday you want to know the rest, don't ask me. Ask her." He held the letter in both hands, staring at the last two words. "Ask her." A sentence that sounded like a command. A sentence that turned his world into a storm. He sat there in silence, the weight of 18 years settling on his shoulders. Eventually, he stood, folded the letter, and placed it back into the box, not because he wanted to hide it again, but because he didn't trust himself not to rip it apart from anger or fear. When Sarah came home that evening, Ethan was waiting for her in the living room. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just held the box in his hands. "Mom," he said, his voice calm but shaking, "we need to talk." Sarah froze in the doorway, just like she had when he was a child asking about his father. But this time, she didn't recover fast enough to hide it. Her face crumpled before she even stepped inside. She knew. She knew exactly what he had found. Her purse slipped from her shoulder and hit the floor. She didn't even notice. She just stared at the box as if it were a ghost. Where did you get that?" she whispered. "It was behind the washing machine," he said. "Mom, why didn't you ever tell me?" She walked toward him slowly, as if every step hurt. Her eyes flicked between his face and the box. She sat down on the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I hoped," she said, voice trembling, "that you would never find it." "Why? Ethan asked. Why would you hide something like this from me? Her shoulders shook. She lifted her head, eyes red, and said something he would never forget. Because the truth was the only thing that could take you away from me. She reached out to touch his hand, but he pulled back. The hurt in her eyes was immediate, sharp. Mom, he whispered, what truth? What did you keep from me? She took a long breath. A tremor ran through her fingers as she clasped them together. What I did, she said, I did to protect you. He waited. She didn't continue. Protect me from what? He asked again. Sarah looked at him with a kind of broken honesty he had never seen before. From your father, she said. From the life he came from. From the people who wanted him gone. And from the fact that, the man you think he was isn't the man he truly was. Those words hung in the air like smoke. Ethan felt his stomach twist. He didn't know what to believe. The letter had painted a picture of a father who wanted him. His mother was painting a picture of a man who was dangerous. Only one of them could be telling the truth. Or maybe, both were telling different truths. The room felt smaller. The air heavier. And then she said something that made Ethan's heart stop. There are things about your father, she whispered, that I never wanted you to know. Things that would change everything. She looked at the box again. And now you've opened the door I tried to keep shut. Her voice cracked. And I can't close it anymore. Sometimes when I'm telling a story like this, I catch myself wondering how many parents spend years carrying a truth they're terrified to expose. I know people who would rather set themselves on fire than admit they lied to protect someone they loved. And others who lie simply because it's easier than facing what really happened. With Sarah, well, the line between those two reasons was blurrier than even she wanted to admit. As Ethan sat across from her, he could feel that blur. It hung in the air, shaping every trembling breath she took. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't demand. He simply whispered, tell me. Sarah looked older than he'd ever seen her. Not physically, emotionally. As if the weight of the last 18 years finally decided to settle inside her bones. Your father, she began, was not the man I thought he was when I met him. I was young, naive, and he was different. Dangerous, even when he tried not to be. Ethan frowned. The letter said you kept him away. I did, she said. But not because he was unkind to me. Not because he didn't love you. He did. That's what made everything so hard. He wasn't the villain. He wasn't the hero. He was trapped. She pressed her hands together, like she was holding something fragile. He was involved with people who didn't like loose ends. People who didn't forgive mistakes. And the day I found out about just one thing he had been forced into, I realized that staying with him meant raising you inside that world. A world where enemies remembered names and bloodlines. Her voice cracked. I couldn't risk that. So I left. Ethan blinked. But the letter. The letter, she interrupted softly, was his last attempt to reach you. He made me promise never to contact him again. He said if I stayed far away, if I raised you quietly, anonymously, you'd be safe. She wiped her eyes. But he knew me. He knew I wouldn't tell you the truth. He knew I'd try to bury the past. So he left you that letter, hoping that one day, when things were calmer, you would know he wasn't the monster I made him seem. Ethan stared at her, trying to understand the contradictions. So he wasn't dangerous, but the people around him were. She nodded. And you hid him from me, to keep me safe? Another nod. He breathed out slowly, frustrated. Then why didn't you just tell me that? Why make it sound like he abandoned us? Sarah closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. Because I was afraid you'd resent me. I was afraid you'd look for him. And if you did, I was afraid they'd find you too. A quiet settled over the room. The kind of quiet that comes when two people finally stop lying, even if the truth feels heavier than the lie ever did. Ethan stood and began pacing. So he didn't leave. You left him. I had to, Sarah whispered. Ethan, the night I walked away, a man followed us home. Your father scared him off, but the message was clear. You weren't safe. I wasn't safe. The people in his world didn't want him to have weaknesses. And a family. She swallowed hard. A family is the biggest weakness anyone like him can have. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. So you cut him out of our lives. To save yours, she whispered. I don't regret protecting you. But I regret lying to you. I regret letting you think your father didn't want you. He fought for you, Ethan. More than you'll ever know. Ethan sank onto the couch, elbows on his knees, letter in hand. Is he still alive? The question made her freeze. He noticed. Mom, he pressed. Is he alive? Her silence answered him long before her voice did. Not anymore, she whispered. He died when you were 10. His chest tightened. And you didn't tell me? Because I knew you would ask questions, she said. And I wasn't ready to answer them. I wasn't ready to bring the danger back into our lives. He felt a sharp sting behind his eyes, but held it back. How did he die? Sarah hesitated. He was found in his apartment. The police called it an accident. But you don't believe that. No, she admitted. I never have. Ethan leaned back, heart pounding. The man he'd imagined his whole life, either a ghost or a villain, turned out to be neither. He was a father who died alone, trying to protect a son he couldn't hold. He reread the letter, each word heavier now. If you're reading this, I'm gone. Gone. That word suddenly felt personal. Painfully personal. He thought about all the birthdays his father missed. All the firsts he never witnessed. All because one woman, his mother, made a choice she thought was right. He didn't know whether to hate her or forgive her. Were you ever going to tell me? He asked quietly. She wiped her eyes. I told myself I would. One day. But every year that passed, it became harder. And you seemed happy. You were safe. I convinced myself the truth would only destroy that. Ethan sat back, the letter trembling in his fingers. For a moment, he imagined a different life, the life where his father had raised him, where he might have known the truth earlier, where maybe none of this would feel like a betrayal. But then he remembered what Sarah said. The danger. The threats. The world his father was tied to. Did he ever try to find me? Ethan asked. Sarah nodded slowly. He tried once. He sent someone to check if we were okay. Not to approach us. Just to watch from a distance. I only knew because that person came to me and told me that your father had been killed. Ethan exhaled sharply. So he was watching us from the shadows. Yes, she whispered. Because he loved you. And because he promised not to drag us back into his life. Ethan felt anger, grief, and confusion twisting inside him. Why didn't he contact me directly? Not even once. He couldn't, she said. If he reached out, they would have known. Ethan stared at the floor. He felt like a child again, lost, unsure, small. What was he like? He asked softly. Sarah hesitated, then allowed a sad smile to shape her lips. He was kind. He was funny. He had this way of making you feel like everything was going to be okay, even when the world was falling apart. And that was the problem. He hid his fear well. Too well. She paused. He wasn't a bad man, Ethan. He was a man who made mistakes. Who trusted the wrong people. Who got trapped. And he spent the rest of his life trying to break free. Ethan looked at her, searching for truth in her eyes. He saw pain. Regret. But not deception. "So what now?" he asked. Sarah took a deep breath. "Now, you know the truth. And you get to decide what to do with it." He sat quietly, the letter warm in his hands. He thought about the father he would never meet. The man whose story he only knew through a single sheet of paper. "I want to know everything," he finally said. "Not just the version you've told me. I want the whole story." Sarah nodded. "I'll tell you. All of it. No more secrets." And she did. For the next 3 hours, she told him everything, from how she met his father, to the night she left, to the threats she received afterward, to the moment she learned he was gone. She didn't spare the ugly parts. She didn't try to soften the edges. She let the truth bleed out, raw and unfiltered. Ethan listened, absorbing each detail, each memory. Some parts hurt. Others made him feel closer to the man he never knew. By the time Sarah finished, the room felt different, lighter somehow, even with all the darkness laid bare. Ethan looked at the letter again, the final line echoing in his mind. "Ask her." He finally understood why his father had written that. Because no matter what happened between them, Sarah was the one who stayed. The one who protected him. The one who raised him, imperfectly, fearfully, but with love. He exhaled slowly. "Mom," he said, "I don't know how to feel yet. But I don't hate you. I wish you had trusted me." She looked up, tears filling her eyes again. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I truly am." He nodded. "I know." Hours later, after she went to bed, Ethan sat alone in the living room. He unfolded the letter again, smoothing out the creases. He traced the handwriting with his thumb, his father's handwriting. The only thing he had left of him. He whispered, "I wish I'd known you." For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine a world where things were different, where his father had lived long enough to meet him, to teach him things, to tell him the truth himself. But life isn't made of alternate realities. It's made of the choices people make, the consequences they carry, and the secrets they break open when they finally find the courage. The next morning, Ethan woke earlier than usual. He found his mother in the kitchen, staring at a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. She looked exhausted. Fragile. He sat across from her. "Mom," he said gently, "I want to visit his grave." Sarah's hands tightened around the mug. "I thought you might." "I need to," he said. "I need to tell him something." She nodded, understanding. "I'll take you." Later that afternoon, they drove to a quiet cemetery on the outskirts of town. The air was heavy with the smell of pine and old earth. Sarah led him down a narrow path until they reached a modest gravestone with a name Ethan had never spoken aloud before. He stared at it, feeling a pressure in his chest he didn't know how to name. He knelt, placing the letter beside the stone. "I'm sorry I wasn't there," he whispered. "I'm sorry I didn't know." The wind picked up gently, almost as if the world itself was listening. He closed his eyes, letting himself feel the grief he had never allowed himself to feel. Grief for a father he never met. Grief for a childhood shaped by fear and silence. Grief for a truth buried for 18 years. And when he finally stood, he felt something inside him shift. Not healed. Not resolved. But open. On the drive home, Sarah kept glancing at him, as if waiting for him to shatter. But he didn't. He stared out the window, thinking about the life ahead of him, not the life behind. That night, he placed the letter inside a glass frame and set it on his desk. Not as a reminder of the pain, but as a reminder of the truth. A reminder that even secrets, once revealed, can become anchors instead of chains. He didn't know what the future held. But he knew one thing. He wasn't a boy with questions anymore. He was a man with answers. And even if those answers hurt, they belonged to him now. Sometimes, when I think about Ethan's story, I think about how many families live with ghosts they never talk about. People disappear, lies fill the silence, and the truth waits like a letter sealed for years. But eventually, whether by accident or fate, someone finds it. And when they do, the world shifts. I guess that's what makes this story stick with me. Because the truth didn't destroy Ethan the way Sarah feared it would. It broke him open. And sometimes being broken open is the only way to grow. And maybe that's what his father wanted all along. In the weeks that followed, Ethan found himself noticing small things, details in his mother's expressions, memories he had overlooked, fragments of stories she had once told without context. Life didn't magically become easier, but it became clearer. And clarity, even when painful, felt like a gift. He often caught himself touching the frame on his desk, feeling closer to the father he never met and strangely more connected to the mother he thought he had lost to secrets. The truth hadn't taken anything from him. It had finally given him the chance to understand where he came from, and who he could become.